Okay, welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining Pinnacle Live. I think it has been, this is the fourth event that we are doing. Thank you so much, Roland, for being here and taking us through this kind of, very interesting topic that everyone is talking about now. Before we start, and I will give the mic to Roland, I would love to take you through the first of all, just a quick video about what is Pinnacle Live, what we think about it. We definitely want to give you that Pinnacle is a consultancy and training company. We are absolutely believing in that every organization, whether it is big or small, it has a lot of potentials. The people inside those organizations are the ones who have the potentials. We definitely we exist to build great people to do extraordinary things. And we believe that everyone has the capabilities within to do that. We build the people mindset, we build the technology structure and the process and the know-how in order to be able to perform. So the triangle that everyone is looking for to be able to perform as a company or as an organization is absolutely the people and the technology and the process. And this is how we interfere and build within Pinnacle. We have 13 branches partner now. We're existing in several countries in Africa, Europe, and the Far East and Canada. And we're expanding and we're seeing ourselves expanding more and more. So without further ado, you wanted to hear not about Pinnacle, but you wanted to hear about how do you manage remote workers. Short video and then the presentation of Roland Friedl, our speaker, will start. Much, Roland, you are now live.
Okay. Yeah, first of all, welcome everybody who's joining and taking this time and this energy and this effort to join in and maybe to learn some new insights. Before I start, I want to just present myself so to get a better understanding where my knowledge and my experience comes. My name is Roland Friedl. I'm Austrian born and live in Spain, where I'm working from. I'm looking back at almost 40 years of career. After university, I started in the management of a huge corporation, Austria, and I had a very fast and strong career. And after a few years, I left and founded my own companies and worldwide. And for this reason, I attended and saw and listened to many meetings, analog before and virtually now, as an employee, as a staff member, as a manager, so from both sides. I listened to many meetings, but also as my leading my own meetings as an entrepreneur. Just to give you a short idea, I had a franchise system with over 8,000 franchisees all over the world. So also in the early times, I had to lead them remotely and virtually because they're spread all over the world. We couldn't meet all the time. And the last years, very focused on virtual meetings and also looking back on a coaching career and consulting career with my partner together. And I listened to, I don't know, hundreds of meetings. And I saw these meetings, I saw good ones. I listened to outstanding ones, but I also listened to many very poor ones. So I heard and saw very inspiring leaders, but also very boring ones. And the question is, what's the difference and how do lead remotely, how to inspire your team to improve your team performance. Yeah, before I start, thank you very much, Mounir, for inviting me in, for the trust. As mentioned before, I work as a trainer and a consultant with my companies since many years, over 20 years now, worldwide. We trained the whole planet, many countries, different industries. But we also collaborate with other consulting companies. And to be honest, I really love to collaborate with Pinnacle. It's a wonderful team. It's for me, it's like when we work together, it's like family. It's very friendly. It's like family. But on the other hand, what is also very important for me is very competent. So there's a lot of competence, a lot of skills, a lot of experience in the Pinnacle team, and I really appreciate this collaboration together. Yeah, thanks a lot for inviting me. Okay, so the question is remote teams. I didn't present. I don't present any slides, any PowerPoint or whatever you want to call it. I think it's a little bit boring. I want to be more interactive with that, and I split it in several sectors. And the first question is to go a little bit deep in the root cause is, what are the critical pillars of successful virtual leadership, meaning leading and managing remotely teams, is the first question.
Yes, if I may ask you, Roland, I mean, you've been around a lot, and we've been knowing each other's for more than, I don't know, 10, 11 years now.
Yeah.
So I know how it is, because I was managing 138 countries. You are as well. So we were managing teams all over the place. So from your experience, sitting in Spain, managing companies in Switzerland and Germany and the States and so on, how is it your experience on managing remote teams without you being the leader of that companies or teams, and you don't get to see them a lot?
Yeah. Well, let's start with one point, Mounir. The first thing is it all starts with us as a leader first. So let's have a look at that first on ourselves. Later we could talk about the team and also about technologies and stuff like that. But if you want to be successful, if you want to be inspiring for the team, it starts all with yourself. And there are some pillars. The first one, I strongly believe, and what I see from others who fail, is the lack of trust. Trust is so important. First, trust in yourself, and secondly, trust in your team. So the question is, can you trust your team? And can you give your team enough space so they can develop and working self-responsibly? Or are you a control freak? This is a serious question you have to ask yourself. If you want to lead remotely teams that you don't see everybody, you can't step in the office because they are spread at their homes right now with this COVID pandemic that we are facing almost a year now. So the question is, can you trust them? Can you give them space? That's the first question. Or you're a control freak. Or are you is mistrust guiding you? So this is the first question when I coach managers, is always ask them, it starts with yourself. Okay. What fears are behind them when you don't trust the team? Is this a fear of not being noticed? Is this a fear of not being taken seriously? Is it about your self-esteem? That's the first question you have to ask yourself. And these are all questions that we as leaders and in general as human beings have to ask ourselves honestly. And maybe sometimes the answer is not that what we really want to hear, but if we avoid these questions ourselves, we will never be successful. We have to look at that firstly. So, because otherwise we are paying a very high price. So trust in yourself and trust in the team, in the people. Yeah, that's one very important thing when you want to work remotely and lead your team remotely. That's first, because you cannot control every step. Second thing is, and maybe it's a little bit weird for you, or you find it a little provocation, but really you have to look at that, and it's going to be a game changer. I can promise you. It's secondly, look at your ego. And ask yourself, what does my ego want? because to be honestly, I saw so many meetings that has just been ego sessions. Yeah, and virtually it will just end in a disaster because you will see later it's much more difficult. So what does your ego want? What do you want for your team, for the success of your organization you're working for? Okay. So by the way, what I found out in the last years of the case is our ego is the largest obstacle in our life that prevents us from living a successful and enriched life totally, and be successful as a manager and as a leader. So what is the root cause to fail or not to fail, to be successful? It's the question is, if before you started to lead and work remotely, is the question, are the meetings you had before on the venue in your organization, have they been inspiring or not? That's the root question you have to ask yourself. Yeah, let's start from that.
Right, and let me hear now as well. At that point of time, being able to have this kind of an inspiring meeting, leading an effective meeting on the ground, this is a challenge. By the way, it's a challenge between the whether it is online or remotely or offline. But what are the critical pillars of successful virtual leadership? I mean, yeah, meaning leading and managing remote working teams. We have like pillars for that, the critical ones that everyone has to be having this kind of traits and pillars to work on so that they become much more successful.
Yeah, as I mentioned before, Mounir, it all starts with yourself, how you act as a leader. Because, you know, leading remotely, honestly, is not quite differently. What leading remotely is, sorry for this comparison, but I always compare it with alcohol. You know, alcohol doesn't make you a better person or a worse person. What it does is it's a booster. So when you're a funny person, maybe under alcohol, you're more funny. If you're a depressed person, maybe with alcohol, you're more depressed. When you're an aggressive person with alcohol, maybe you can be more oppressed. So it comes more out. And the same is with remote meetings and leadership. When you fail as an inspiring leader in your organization, when you lead remotely, it will be a boost. It's more obvious because you can't, as I mentioned before, you can't control people directly. It's more difficult because just imagine, I give an example. When you start a meeting in the past, you went into the meeting room, you're prepared, you're shaking hands, you connect with the people. Maybe you get the people get a feeling about what's coming. Yeah, maybe it's a, I don't know, kickoff meeting or whatever it is, you know, sales meeting or whatever it is. So you connect with the people first, and then after a while you start with the meeting. But when you go in a virtual meeting, people on the screen and bam, most start immediately. There's no connection before. That's what's missing. And then people are drifting away when you're not really inspiring. But I will come to this deeper a little bit later.
Okay, so that means that makes sense. But I mean, again, if I am getting back to this kind of an inspiring meetings, how can we make an inspiring meeting in working together, and what is the efficient and inefficient meeting being done? How can we differentiate that?
Okay, if the meeting is going to be successful, meaning inspiring or boring, inefficient, depends on your focus. When you're very focused on KPIs and figures, and I can really tell you, KPIs are very important. They're mostly the base of your decisions, but they're not the main content in the meeting because figures are not sexy, are not attractive. And a meeting is there more to inspire people and your team than inform them. So the question is, where is your focus? When you're more figures focused instead of people focused, when you're more result focused and process focused, then it's going to be boring in the meeting. So the question is, do you know your team? Do you know exactly how do you prepare? I think preparation is so important. When I talk to leaders face to face, they always told me, I don't have enough time for preparation. Maybe they prepare a nice PowerPoint, but when I ask them, what is the desired outcome of the meeting? How do you make sure that the desired outcome will occur? So most of them fail. So it's all about preparation and structure, because we all know that we spend and sometimes we waste a lot of time in meetings. So less meetings is much better instead of having more efficient ones. So the question is how to inspire them. And I did a short outview. I read a lot of search surveys, and I did a survey with my team by myself. So we interviewed managers and we interviewed the staff separately. And we asked them, the managers, what do you think is the most important thing for your team members and staff so they get motivated? What do you think? We gave them 10 possible answers. Just rank them from 1 to 10. They're all not positive, they're all important, but just rank them. What do you think for your staff is the most important one, number 1, number 2, and so on? And we asked the same question to staff. What is the most important thing for you to do a proper job to be motivated? And the outcome, I mean, for me, it was not surprising, but the outcome was really extreme. So the managers had absolutely no idea what the staff wants. They thought salary, high salary. They thought, I want to have a nice job. They thought it's having a nice working environment, stuff like that. None of them was. It's important for them too. But do you know what was number one, what the staff wanted? And the managers had not in mind. The number one was that people are motivated is they want to know the direction. What is the vision? What is the mission? What are the goals of my boss, of my team leader? First, so they want to know the direction. Secondly, they want to know how can I participate, contribute as a team member to the team effort so we are successful. But to be honest, everybody wants to join a winning team. I've never heard a person say I want to join a loser team. Everybody wants to join a winner team. So the question is, what is the secret of a winner team? And the first point is the team has to know exactly what is your vision. So I always tell managers, first of all, think about what is your vision? Where do you want to go with your team or with your organization or with your company when it's your own one? What is your vision? What is your mission? Okay, what are your goals? And then you share this with the team and hopefully they are aligned. So hopefully they're looking the same direction with you. That's the first point. The second point is when everybody's aligned, I said, okay, let's do that. Let's go in this direction. The second point is, do we have the skills to fulfill this? So as a leader, you have to know exactly from each team member, do they understand what I want, meaning where I'm going, what is my mission? Secondly is, do my team members exactly know how to do this, how to perform this? The second one, okay? And the third one is very important too, is as a leader, do I exactly know each motive of each team member? What is his or her personal motivation to participate in the team? Because we always believe as a leader, we have an amazing vision, and we always believe this motivates our team. That's not true. It's our vision. It's not our team vision. So every team member has to find his own motivation why to join this. That's what we have to say. So we have to make clear, do our team know what we want? Do they know how to do it? And do they know why they should do it? And this is what people want, because everybody wants to succeed. Everybody wants to be part of a winner team, and that's the most important thing. And then people are motivated. We have to understand, because I always hear from managers, Mr. Friedl, come in with your team and motivate my team. And we all know that external motivation is very short-lasting. A long-term motivation is an internal one that comes from the people. And I always tell the managers in my consulting sessions, you are not there to motivate them. I'm just happy if you're not going to demotivate them. So what demotivates them is when they don't know where to go, where they don't know what the contribution is, when they don't get any feedback. Do I reach the benchmark? Do I have is my performance good enough? Is my performance a value to the team? And that's what people want, and this is what motivates them. And the same is in a virtual meeting. So what we have to learn as leaders is using every opportunity we talk to our team for a learning opportunity for our team members. That's very important. And what I also saw in meetings is you have to, actually as a leader, you have two roles, because you're leading your team and you're also managing your team. What's the difference? Leading is your team, or we describe in different roles. Are you the captain of the team or you're the coach of the team? And we have to understand as leaders, and that's sometimes stressful for some people, is we have to know each other. In which role are we actually? Are we communicating to our team as a captain, or are we communicating as a coach? What do I mean? As a captain, I speak about the vision of the company, about the goals, about the mission, about the strategy, and all the stuff. So what I find out. As a coach, I interact with my team in a meeting and ask them, okay, do you exactly understand what I said already before? Do you exactly understand what I want, where we're going? Do you know how to do this? And why do you want to do this? So as a leader, I have to be clear which hat I have on. And it's also very important to keep in mind, does my team members know exactly right now which hat I have on? I give an example. When you want to communicate and act as a captain of your team, but your team believes that you have the coach hat on, nobody takes you for serious. If you want to act as a coach to your team, but you come over to them and they really see you as, they feel that you're acting more and communicating your language more than a captain, they won't trust you. So we have to be very clear which hat we have on and act like this. And then the meetings will work. And this is the root cause, and this is the base of all efficient meetings as well.
Right. Thank you, Roland. But let me just tell you that if it's that easy, because it's a leadership, and there are things that we need to do from a leadership perspective, which is absolutely good, and having the trust and so on, and this is absolutely good. But what is the difference? Why is it more challenging to run the same on virtual meetings?
Okay. First of all, on virtual meeting, it's much easier for team members to hide who don't want to participate actively. It's more easier to hide, because when you're in a seminar room, you just have a short look to them and they know exactly, oh, he got me. I have to be focused, I have to listen, or whatever. This is very difficult on the meeting. And the larger your team, and when I don't know if you're using Team from Microsoft or Zoom or whatever technique you're using, when you have 10 or 15 people on the Zoom or whatever it is, you only see small pictures. And with the small pictures, it's hard to find out, are they focused, are they really listening, or are they, if they had somebody or under the screen, are they just working on the mobile or just, I don't know, on Facebook or whatever they're doing. So it's easier for people to hide. It's mostly, it's much more a one-way direction than in both ways. So it makes it difficult to interact, to communicate. Of course, the technical conditions have to be right to make clear that the technique is working, the network is working, everybody has access. I mean, this is basic. We don't have to discuss this and go deeper in it. But actually, taking yourself out of this is very thin. So the technique should work, of course. But I give you an example. A mid-size, meaning 25,000 people, a mid-sized German company. They started before COVID to go virtual and work more remotely. So there are some companies in the market that already started years ago to work remotely and also to lead remotely. So they had more time to prepare than those who have been forced by the COVID pandemic. And from one day the government to say, okay, bank close, and that was tough for them. But there's an example from one company, and the owner of the company decided to do meetings remotely, meaning virtually. And what they did is they appealed totally to the personal responsibility of the team members, what is very, very important. And this mid-sized company introduced online meetings overnight. So they sent out invitation by emails with a link. And then many of the managers came back to the owner and said, oh, how does this work? I never did it before. And you know what they got as a response? They said, go to YouTube, there are enough tutorials, and make you smart yourself. So it's all about self-responsibility also. So to make clear that everybody knows exactly how to handle the technique, that's very, very important. And they're both ways. You organize meetings to teach them and educate them how to work with the technique, or you just, okay, go on YouTube and look for some tutorials. So to make a long story short, personal responsibility is a very important milestone there for the team members. But the question is, have you actively supported your team members to act on their own responsibility in the past, or did you fail so? And that's the point. So working virtually is not much different than when you sit together in a meeting room on the organization's venue. It's all about, are you able and willing to inspire your team, or is it just a boring presentation? And there's just a lot of figures and KPIs. That's the point. There's no miracle pill or such a button to click and say, okay, working with it. It starts with the root cause. Are you willing to work on yourself to become an inspiring leader or not? That's the point. And what I saw the last years, because I use Zoom, I don't know exactly 5 or 6 years right now as a tool, for example. It's one of many others. And I saw also many remote and virtual leadership meetings. And those persons I know personally that have been smart, that have been charismatic, that have been inspiring before in the meeting room, they are inspiring and smart and charismatic on the virtual one. Those who failed before fail also on the virtual one. I'm sorry for that, but that's the truth. It's working on ourselves. And be honest, because I always to ask leader when I attended meeting as a coach, as a consultant, when I attend them to help them out and give them feedback. My first question is always, how do you feel? I said, yeah, it was okay, it was good, it was good. And then I asked separately the staff, and the answers are differently. Sometimes I have the feeling that the manager and the staff have been in different meetings.
Yeah,
yeah, that's the point. So it's honestly, Mounir, and I just repeat myself, but I really want to flesh this out. There is no miracle pill or tip. It's just working yourself to do an inspiring meeting. An inspiring meeting, again, it's not about figures. It's about every team member knows exactly the direction where to go. They know exactly how to contribute to the success of the building, how to improve themselves. So the feedback culture is very important. And what I personally do with my team leading worldwide is I never talk about failure. Never. We always, my meeting has always a positive atmosphere. I mean, imagine you start. I mean, this year was tough for everyone, or mostly, maybe not for Amazon or some companies, but it was tough for everyone. But imagine you go into a meeting and you start with a negative message and said, yeah, that the sales go down, blah blah blah. Hey man, the atmosphere goes down, Sandeep. Everybody knows that it was not a good year. So why do you have to stretch it out? So look at a positive one and motivate the people and give them a positive outview of the future. Okay, but we all don't know where we are going. And I always tell to my people, hey man, I don't know what's going on. I'm not a politician. I'm not from politics. I don't make decisions. But what I know is we can do this and this and this. And when we work harder, when we change our mindset, it's all about mindset, then we can go through this. And that's what inspiration is all about.
Right, and maybe if I can add something more on what you have just said, Roland, is that it's it's the difference between the actors who go on theater and the actors in front of the camera.
Yeah.
So you can see that there are some actors who actually perform wow on a theater, and when they go in front of the cam, it does not work the same way. So they are more of that. And let me tell you the differences between both. One is actually waiting for feedback from the audience. He get the energy and everything and the thoughts and so on from the audience. And once he disconnects with the audience, meaning not in the training room, not in the meeting room, but on a virtual meeting, the connection, the human connection is lost. Screens does not really transform the vibes, the positive vibes and the negative vibes and the feelings and the looks and the eyes and so on. You suddenly engage from getting those attributes that you normally get when you are in a meeting room. But but we see that there were some actors who are absolutely good on theater and on front of the cam. And these are the good leaders because they are not waiting for the response to get the energy out. They are not waiting for responses and they can manage the vibes and they can transform the vibes everywhere. So start with that and start thinking of you, okay, I'm going to be doing that. My energy will not be pushed by the audience, by the delegates, by the people in the meeting room. My energy and the way I am managing this team remotely is absolutely not going to be happening with the immediate feedback, with the immediate pat on the shoulder when we are in the office. I'm not going to be feeling how it is going with the people because we're not in the office. And in fact, if we are not in the office, I do not see them all the time. I do not feel the vibes all the time. I need to work without seeing them. And this is what Roland is always saying, you know, how to lead, or how to be present without being present in the same way.
Absolutely, Mounir. Just before I answer this question, how to be present before present, I want to come back to what you mentioned. This is absolutely true. So there are people who have an internal reference about their own performance, and there are people who need an external reference. What you say is an actor, okay? So when you perform without your audience immediately, and you're doing it well, you know that you have an internal reference that you're good, meaning you trust yourself, you trust your audience, what I mentioned before. It's not about your ego, and it's not about you don't need this clapping on the shoulder. That's what I mentioned before. This is absolutely true. That's the same way. That's what I tried to do. But to answer your question, how to be a leader without being on the side, without being present. And I mean, if you got my drift, then you already know the answer. You are always present, even if you're not physically present, through your vision, your goals, your strategy, and a common purpose in your team. Okay? So when you're able to communicate a vision that everybody's aligned, the mission, the goals, everybody's aligned on the strategy, and you have a common purpose as a team, then you don't, and you even don't are present physically, you are present because your vision is present. Okay? So when your team is aligned, this is working. Okay? So give the team a vision, they're aligned, give them maybe an evolutionary purpose, so everybody wants to contribute and be part of it, and then you are always present in their mind.
Right. And if I just start asking you, so we're waiting for questions and answers, so I need to remind everyone that we're absolutely good with Q&A. Start putting your questions, your challenges that you're facing, things like that, because this is where the communication will be happening. But Roland, from your perspective, managing the people remotely, meaning that I don't get to see them. There are no working hours. I mean, myself and Roland were going to be, you know, when we chat or willing to have one-to-one meeting or discussion. Sometimes it went like 11:30 p.m. and one time he asked me about the meeting 7 a.m. because he wakes up early. So that's again, when we were discussing this as leaders, when we were saying that, you know, I work late, I perform better after midnight. So I definitely work. I wake up early, 7, 8 in the morning, but it's absolutely towards the midnight where I am much more productive. While on the contrary, Roland is working in effectively and much more effectively in the morning. So this is one of the main points, and I wanted to share that and to see the Roland perspective on that. We found the common ground where we can both be in a good shape to be able to work. And then again, when Sunday is a working day for me, Sunday is not working day for Roland. However, when we have the purpose and we have the willingness treating ourselves as businessmen, I always get meetings on Fridays, and he always says, by the way, I have no problem with Saturdays and Sundays. Just let me know. So this is another attributes now, because there are no working hours, there is no working space, and we have some flexibility. So Roland, can you elaborate more and how do we need to be putting this into perspective while we start managing remote people?
That's a very good question, interesting point too. So when people were remotely from what we call home office in the past, I mean, I strongly believe, and I can tell from my own team, I don't care when they're working. It's all about we have a vision, we have goals, we have a strategy and a plan how we fulfill this. And when they're working on that, I don't care. There's a deadline, and I'm expecting them to fulfill the deadline. And if they need help, I'm always there. So, but I can give you a tip: is it's starting to work remotely and leading remotely gives you a chance to know your team members better. Just ask them, like Mounir mentioned before, what is your preferred time when you are full of energy? And when you want to have a meeting with me one-to-one, do you prefer it in the mornings, at lunchtime, or later? Just get to know your team and be more flexible. And what I mentioned to what is very important when you brings me to the same, when you work remotely and lead remotely, it's not enough just to have meetings. So what I do with my team, with almost each team member, I have a personal one-to-one almost every week. And there we not only discuss business issues, but also private issues. So how do you feel? I don't want them to feel too much isolated at home. Maybe they're facing some challenging because they work from home. Maybe the kids are disturbing. If they need some support, whatever it is. So also take your time to have a personal chat with them, because this is missing. This is missing. Okay, so they cannot share it with colleagues or with you, I don't know, in the coffee room or for the smokers in a cigarette breakout or so. So this, when we lead remotely, we have to keep in mind that people are sitting at home, maybe isolated. So the interaction, the socializing is also very important. So there are two ways. You can do it before the meeting, 10 minutes, for example, or you do it separately with them. But don't forget that. So if you only focus on the meeting, you're going to lose some people.
Let me just add this, Roland, and if we are now speaking more about the understanding and having this kind of personal connections with the team and so on, it's and I know it's a little bit of challenging to be able to make this kind of connection with the entire team. How do you manage the extra things and the extra time that you need to collaborate with your team on a virtual thing? First of all, second, what is it about the deadline? Is it the same as when we are doing the deadline on a real office, physical office, or deadlines are different now?
Okay. So to answer your first question, as I mentioned before, try to use every communication with your team members for a learning opportunity for a team member. That's what I learned in the past. So it doesn't matter if I'm in a meeting, I have a face-to-face, or also in the past somebody was visiting me here in my home, or we have a short phone call. My last question is always, what did you learn the last minute or hour? That's one point. So as a leader, it's very important, not only, and this is the difference to a manager, it's not only about managing your stuff, like managing any other resources that you're working with. It's about leading them. And I know we all, it's not also that we're all responsible for our teams. We have a lot of daily work, we have a lot of daily business, we're very busy, we have meetings and so on. That's for sure. But what I learned and really helped me to be successful is to reserve a certain time in my calendar every week, whatever day it is, every week, and I just be there for my team for some hours, and I take my time and make calls for them. So I reserve time for myself for leadership, not only for managing my team or managing my business, managing my clients, managing my resources. I have fixed, because we always distracted, we're always under pressure. I always reserve a fixed time in my calendar where I'm there for leading, meaning connecting with my staff. And this is very important, because otherwise there's always an excuse why you don't have time.
Yes. Yeah, and one of the things you mentioned is related with the trust, and the things that I've noticed in the past period with the pandemic, is that people either go one way of the direction. Either they micromanage their teams, so they are on top of everything that they are doing and they want to know exactly what they are doing and so on. And there are, on the other hand, I see people who just leave the team and then comes on the deadline, and then sometimes problematic, sometimes it's not ready and so on. And now we're starting to be facing some troubles doing that.
Okay. To answer your second question, the deadline. For me, it's no difference between before and now. A deadline is a deadline, and you always have team members who are procrastinating. Yeah, you always have this. You know them, so you maybe lead them a little bit different than those who have self-responsibility. This is always one, yeah. But for me, it's no difference. A deadline is a deadline.
Yeah, maybe if I want to say something about the deadlines, and this is something just I've noticed when people start putting the deadline, as do you. Absolutely, the deadline is a deadline. But two things that I have noticed and I want you to take care of is that normally we give the deadlines on the working hours. So if I am having something that I need on Sunday morning or Monday morning to start my morning with a report, previously we would have asked this to be ready for us by just Friday before we go to the weekend, so that I can do some work with it and deal with it. Now, when we're working all from home and we're doing everything that is possible, we're absolutely good to have a different deadline. So if it can be, it doesn't have to be 5 o'clock before you leave the office, because they don't leave the office, they don't leave the home. Give them some time if this is absolutely right. That's one thing. The other is that when we're working on the idea of that the client deadline is, or the client requesting something, please go and double check that, because it's normally people are working with the legacy of the deadlines. And I remember doing one of the consultancy was a team in Saudi Arabia, and it was with the client who wanted to ask us a little bit of questions and so on. Long sessions of questions and answers, and they are trying to make everything happens on Thursday, because again Friday, Saturday is off, and the team wanted to just finish before that. And I remember when we asked it only that, guys, can we do this on Friday? Just ask them after the prayer, can we go and make this? And then the team in Saudi were absolutely, astonished when they got back to the client, and they said, "Oh, of course, yeah, we're sitting at home, we're doing nothing." So Friday is good, and we had this effective meeting on Friday. So always get back to the one who's asking for the deadline. Ask them if they want to really when is the actual deadline, rather than the office work deadline. That's my tip of that.
Yeah.
I see, Mustafa, you would like to add a point, of course. Can you type it there? It's not, there is no way on Microsoft Live event to get you to be able to speak. But if you can type it, we can share this, Mustafa. Please do. I don't know if it's easy to type it or not, but maybe this it's gonna be hard. But if you can give us the tips that you want to share, that would be definitely good for the rest of the team.
Just to add something, Mounir, is about a deadline, especially when you work remotely. What I highly suggest is, or recommend, is that you have a good CRM like Salesforce, so a customer relationship management tool that's really absolutely helpful. So you always have access and you know exactly what your Salesforce is doing with your customer, in which state, in which level they are.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much. And until we hear back from Mustafa or the others, talking about the micromanagement or letting it go because we're not in the same office, so we give the task without clarity and then let the people do whatever, and then we come and punish them for not finishing the work. I mean, it's obvious that it should be in between, not micromanagement, not doing that. But I'm asking about not the most obvious. How do you manage people remotely without seeing them?
Mounir, I love this question because, you know, sometimes when I do coaching consulting with managers in a group, I don't know, I always start with one quote of myself, and I always say, there's no bad staff, there's only poor leadership. Because when people are not performing like they expected to perform, my first question is always, did I clearly communicate what I'm expecting? Do I make sure that the team member knows exactly how to do it, how to perform, and is he or she motivated? That's my first question. Yeah. If everything is done like this and there's feedback and then maybe this team member has to fulfill a different role. Maybe it's not good in this job. Maybe he or she should do something else in the company. If there's also no fit in, then I'm sorry, then we have to say goodbye. But the first question is always, did I clearly communicate what my expectations are concerning to referring to my benchmark that I said? Do I make sure that everybody knows how to do it? And if not, we train them internally or externally. And do our team members exactly know what is their internal motivation? That's the job as a leader. I have to make sure that this is clear, because mostly what I see in meetings is, okay, guys, this is this and this and this. Last quarter was bad, figures are bad, so we do this and this. Everybody okay? So most people said yes. Questions? No. Boom. That was the leadership. So then you separate. And both are frustrated. The manager's frustrated because he always has to repeat the same stuff, and the staff is frustrated. And but the root cause is poor leadership. So when you go on a new topic, when you go on a new task, make sure that, and I repeat it because it really stretches it out. Does everybody understand what they're expected to do? Does everybody know how to do this? This is so important.
Yes, and seriously, if we need to say that we've all heard about the situational leadership, and this is something that we need it more. Organization need more of situational leadership, where the situation itself, what is the task is being requested and from whom, and once we are aware of that as leaders, sales managers, managing a team, operations, whatever. It's if you're leading someone remotely, these are the two things that you need to really put into consideration. What is the task being requested from whom? And from that point, you understand what is needed from you to be able to follow up. Do I need to have some checkpoints every now and then? Do I need to have a checkpoint on a daily basis? Do I need to have some more of an understanding, or these are the type of persons when I give them a task and the how and my expectation, then leave them, they will get back with this job and it's going to be done. Yeah. So this is exactly what you're saying, Roland. Please think about it this way. It's not about, that they are at home playing or watching Netflix. Sometimes it is important to do that, because if they are working day in, day out, it's going to be disaster, right? Yeah. And I remember when it was one of the consultancy teams that I was doing. I one time I stopped the manager from taking actions with his subordinate, and I said, oh, guys, stop, and please, your task today is to watch 3 movies on Netflix, and then tomorrow morning you're going to tell us all about it, because the guy was working a lot to prove to his manager that he's not playing and he's not work and he's doing all his best. And the manager, because he does not see the guy, was absolutely not able to feel that he's working and he's doing the best that he can. And this kind of gap was the thing that Roland was talking about. And this is where it's absolutely not in the best way. So, Roland, back to you.
What I really want to add and stretch out, Mounir, at this point is when you lead remotely, please communicate more by telephone or video conference and less by email. Okay, email is a cool tool to spread information quickly, or whatever tool you're using, email or WhatsApp or whatever you have. But please communicate by video conference or by phone much more often than in the past, because otherwise you lose the connection to your team.
Yes, and do you encourage opening the cam?
Yeah, of course. This in my team, this is obligatory. No cam on. I kick them out of the meeting.
And why is that?
Why is that? That's a good question, because I want to see people. I want to look in their eyes. I want to see the non-verbal communication. And if somebody tells me, yeah, but my environment at home is not good, technically everything is possible. You can have a screen in the back and so a nice picture you can upload or something like that. So if you say my home is not, or it's a mess because the kids have been there, then I just upload a background picture. But I want to see the non-verbal communication. But everybody knows who is trained in communication that the non-verbal communication is so important. And when when I stretch out my mission or my vision, whatever my goals, I want to see it non-verbally too. Is there saying yes, or is there saying yes?
Perfect. Right. So let me now. I'm gonna read what Mustafa have shared with us. Thank you so much, Mustafa, for taking this. Mustafa started. I'm gonna read it. So hopefully all the words are legitimate in this, Mustafa. So he said, as mentioned in the session, it is critical to delegate authority to remote team. But first of all, you need to choose the right team members, especially the key heads. Then train them well, coach them continuously, and have a clear reporting system that is honored and coupled with a clear KPIs to track the performance, or maybe KPIs. He applied this system back in Iraq. Okay, so yes, he said we applied this system back in Iraq in 2005. Yes, because Mustafa had reached to me yesterday on the WhatsApp, and he was telling me about his situation with Iraq when he was managing it 2005, handling the PG operation, covering all the country, and proved a lot of successful, and the business grow and the teams grow and always performing great. So this is a clear, and it was different circumstances. The world was not on lockdown, but people in Iraq was definitely, the travel to Iraq was not allowed by most of the countries and the companies, and then you need to manage them remotely. And this is what Mustafa was absolutely giving us. It is proving success, by the way. Yeah, thank you so much, Mustafa. Roland, we have 1 minute for any new question or just last tip of the day, and we close this.
Last tip of the day. Oh, okay. Well, what can I say as a closing is it starts with you as a leader. It starts with you. So become the best version of yourself. It starts with you, and learn to be a cause and not an effect. Learn to be a cause and not an effect, and then everything goes well. And when you need help, contact us. It's always good to have a look from outside. Thank you so much for your attention. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you, Roland. It was absolutely great to hear your experience and giving us all these tips. Thank you so much, Mustafa, for participation on that. And it was pleasure meeting you again. Thank you so much, and see you in 3 weeks' time, inshallah. Thank you. Bye bye.